Hi everyone, Rue here, back with another video. This time I'm using Freeform. I'm thinking, excuse me, I'm thinking in terms of ideas and inspiration. We've done a few videos on figures and even a fully fledged figure. We may have done at this point, but I'm thinking more we've done figures, and I'm just thinking it would be really helpful if we did some sort of inspiration board or inspiration chart or whatever you want to call it, just getting our thoughts down on paper. As you can see, I'm using my iPad. I'm using Freeform on the iPad Pro. Let me just rename the document. We'll call it Spring 2025, because we're thinking in terms of new a new collection. So thinking in terms of a new collection, let's kind of get that on the road. So we're thinking in terms of a new collection. Probably we could branch off from there to a side of womenswear. To a side of menswear, dependent upon, of course, your goals and your own personal styling, and obviously if you're a professional, it depends what your brand's doing. You can also branch off to accessories. But that's something else, I guess. But thinking more in terms of womenswear, I'm just neating that up. Thinking in more terms of womenswear, we need to think in terms of inspiration, because when we're trend forecasting, which is something I wanted to cover, and I just wanted to create something visual for yourselves, and also give you an idea of how you can work at, coming up with inspiration for your pieces. But if you're thinking in terms of womenswear, we need bullet points of, current trends, new ideas, and that can span from things like cut and finish, to ideas of fabric choice, to ideas of pattern cutting, and then of course the whole entire idea of color choice, the garments themselves, and collection presentation. It all kind of fits into this one idea, a kind of a normative way of thinking. But what we need to do really is think of images that we can pull up on this free flow document. I'm not going to pull up any images at the moment because obviously I'm using my private iPad and I don't want to sift through all my images, but I will partway through this video I'll pull some up. I just remembered I can obviously pause it, so I'll get some up in a while. But it's kind of thinking in terms of a collection. We need to think of these phrases and these choices, and they're very broad and they're very simple, but they're just little things that you need to think about in terms of styling and trend forecasting and new ideas. And that new ideas in brackets, it can be double bracketed because it's kind of a niche in a way. It's this idea of a niche why does your company have such a thing, and why is it so popular? It's because of my new ideas of this, this, and this, and even my old ideas. So even your old ideas that you have, this very historical and ancestral way of creating, back to the very what's the word I'm looking for? Oh God, I don't know. The kind of, not in a way historical, but more on the line of yeah, I'll call it historical. I can't think of the word. But yeah, niche is important. Niche is definitely an important factor. And this carries over into menswear. They both carry over into themselves. One thing I will say about women's fashion, that's probably something you already know, it moves fast. There's a high need, and it's ever changing. And by moves fast, I mean both in terms of the quantity and ever changing. They're intertwinable, but it's fast moving. It's fast paced. It's things need to be different all the time. You need new ideas. You need new trends. You need new colours. New garments, new fabric choices, new ways of pulling people in. And then with ever changing, it's got to be ever changing in the element of new ideas again, but ever changing. Even if it's the same idea from a few years ago, as long as you're flipping it round and bringing it back around in a way of I used this type of seam work before, so I'm using it again. I used this silhouette or colour choice before, or colour, in the entire outfit, the palette of the outfit was a certain way. It may be replicated, but it was what it was back then. But it's been rejuvenated, because obviously a lot today in fashion has been done. A lot's actually been done. So it makes it difficult for us as fashion designers. But there's a lot of different, ideas that can still be developed from the ideas that have already passed. But we can never forget that. We've got to always remember as fashion designers that we are in an ever-changing climate of a business and a career choice, but an art form. One thing I want to say about creating a women's wear as well, what you always want to do is outline, and you may do this subconsciously, and it may be part of your niche in a way, but outline the moral values of who you're aiming towards. So what are the personality traits? What are the personality traits? What are the physical traits? What are the how much income and expenses are there to the actual customer? Your customer basis. I don't know why that keeps highlighting customer basis. In terms of age, gender, and you could say sex. But yeah, you need to think of those things when you're thinking in terms of women's wear and even with men's wear. But the thing is with men's wear, and I'm going to jot this down straight away, is you have limited silhouettes. I'm going to actually butcher the spelling of this. It's silhouettes. Limited silhouettes. Less interest in some areas. apparently. Don't trust everyone when they say there's less interest with men in fashion. And colour choice. You often find men don't tend to wear as much, bright colours. However, they will use them as accessories. So think in terms of, accessories. Sorry, just 1 second. So yeah, what I'll do in the, just after I just have a drink, we'll carry on. We'll do some descriptions of menswear and then go back and fill this board out with more ideas. Alright, see you in a minute. Hey guys, I'm back. I pulled in some images from one of my past collections. I think it was Womenswear 2024 fall. These are a few sketches, just as a reference and some inspiration. Obviously you can pull up other images. I'm going to pull up some images of patterns as well. I just wanted to do things based on, forecasting trends based off your past work. If we look at, I'll just grab a pen. So if we look at these and analyse them, we've got, certain fabrics. We've got, let's have a look. Pencils, constructed jumper. So we've got silk. If we go for fabrics, just analysing past work here. We've got silk. We've definitely got silk in there. We've got wool. And we've got possibly cashmere. Maybe a cashmere and wool blend, something very luxurious. Or wool and cotton. And then, this one down here is kind of, we're just thinking in terms of fabrics. We've got a silk nylon, which was a staple of the collection if you've seen one of my other videos. We've got silk nylon. We've got, what could we call it? It's a silk nylon, so it's, we've got both the whole garment's made out of a very similar fabric. We could mix some satin in there. A certain satin blend. Can't think of one off the top of my head, but we could blend some satin. And maybe an obvious viscose. Or cotton. Maybe a cotton for the flowers. And then if we look at the other one, we've got a velvet velvet jacket. So I think in terms of fabrics. We've got a velvet jacket. Denim jeans. And possibly these satin heels. So that's kind of it for fabrics. For each of the pieces. Just do that and get rid of that bullet point. So that breaks that element down. So now if we want to think in the middle and think of, if we want to go into the middle of here and think of fabrics for the new collection, first we need to think in terms of, this is just general forecasting based off of past ideas, but this is a way of doing it to create change. But if we think in terms of, used fabrics, seasonally, they work. Some ways they don't, some of them are quite summery. But the nature of the collection that was there's a backstory to it, and I think I've explained this, but I wanted it to be a very eclectic collection to try and create something that was, eclectic in the sense of appealing to different crowds as my initial collection for my brand, for my label, for my fashion house, and going in certain directions with the designs, almost having staple pieces of these individual women in different situations, but also not seasonally different, but something that was a statement within itself rather than a complete continuation of itself, was what I ended up doing with this collection. That hints it's the eclecticness. So if I think in terms of that, that's a bit of a mouthful, but I think in terms of that, we're probably going for what did I say? Yeah, we said spring 2025 is up in the corner here. I'm always to see my cursor going over there. So what do we think of spring fabrics? Well, we've got use of spring fabrics, we've got use of spring and fall style fabrics. In spring, we think of chiffon. We think of satin. We think of linen. We think of, what else do we think of? We think of silk. We think of cotton. One more, we think of crepe. We think of crepe. So we have an idea of what sort of fabrics we could use based off of this. Excuse me 1 second. That's just a general idea. And then you can blend the two together. So you can have chiffon, which, no, you can't really blend chiffon, but you can blend a linen and a cotton together. You can blend a silk and a satin together now. You can blend a chiffon and a crepe in some way. More use of the fabric in the same way, but there are certain methods to get a crepe style satin, which does emulate a chiffon. So I'd say more of a satin and a crepe. And they come up with blends. And that's a way of thinking about it, because when you go to create fabrics, especially for your collection, if you're someone who buys fabrics, excuse me 1 second, if you're someone who buys fabrics, you probably think in terms of quality, and you probably think in terms of quantity as well. But what you don't think in terms of is, well, you probably do, a lot of you do, but not unique in the way of, let's call it homegrown. Self-created fabrics. This idea of creation of a fabric. So instead of using a fabric that's already there, we create one. And we can use that for so many purposes, one of them being great for fit. It's great for fit, cost effective, in use of collection. And another thing is, it's the very nature of it, it's unique. So it creates desirability. And it's very important for, in high fashion to create a level of desirability. Excuse me 1 second. My iPad's dimmed a bit. But it's very important. Yeah. So that's just in terms of fabric. What I'll do is how do I don't know how to select this. I'm gonna have to leave it as it is. So yeah, those are kind of the outlining things of fabric, and we've come up with certain ideas of what we can do for fabric. You can do further research, go online, go to your sources, go to your fabric booklet. You know, we're going to pull up images of fabric in a minute. We'll do this probably. Menswear is going to seep over here. But we'll think of fabrics over here in a second. But yeah, you think of different things, and obviously, if you find it difficult to come up with the perfect fabric, if you've seen a fabric or seen a garment wearing a certain fabric, and a model wearing a certain fabric on a runway, there is nothing wrong with you checking out what that fabric is. The only thing is, of course, don't steal the design. And if that fabric is obviously a very unique fabric to that collection, that source of that design house, then you obviously need to be careful. But the idea is, if your fashion house specializes in high-end fashion, having these fabrics which are unique in blend to and this is a secret of mine, but to create a certain fit within themselves, the garments. So then we can go into colorways, which we can get inspiration from so many colorways. If I think in terms of, I just quickly think in terms of color, I can grasp from these three images. We've got, I think in terms of colour here, we've got brown, red, blue. It's very, it sounds very simple because they're very unique shades to those colours. I call that rose, and I'd call that probably ultramarine, and that probably an ochre colour. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll go brown, red, blue. Same with this. This is more of like a very deep red. The other's a poppy red and like a neon blue and a neon green. But for the sake of simplicity, I'll just put green, blue, black, and red. Again, that green's a kind of washed out, neutral green. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll just put green. And pink. Again, that's hot pink, but it's a shade of pink. And when we think of colours for our next collection, we kind of have to think in terms of, this is one way of doing it, because you can think of conceptualised collections in so many different ways, but this is where I wanted to show you, because it has a simplified method to it. But yeah, thinking in terms of colour, we can always start with what's our favourite colour, what have we forecasted, based off of three images, which is very difficult to do, because what you need to base it off is of trends, like I said above. Trends, new ideas, so any idea that's come to you, any inspiration from any colour, a directory, any place of, you've been, any colour that you've seen, any colour you've put together with another colour in any sort of way, from painting and drawing to seen online to watched on TV, to imagine, to put together in your own wardrobe, to found in nature, to found in a textile shop, to found in a foreign country, to quite literally seeing gradations of colour. It goes in every direction. But you obviously just need to think in terms of, when you're thinking of colour, and it links back to fabric, how does it run through the collection? How does it run through the collection? So are there strong breaks in the colour. So is it, colourful? Strong shades? Is there a continuation? I've butchered the spelling of continuation, excuse me. Continuation in tone and harmony. Is there a classical method to it? This is something I always think about. This is very personal to me. A classical method of choosing colour. Is there a triad? Is there a triptych? Opposing colours. Think of a colour wheel. Think of natural colours, the way that they clash. Think in terms of, excuse me for a second. Think in terms of blue and yellow make green. So put blue and yellow together and maybe add a splash of green. So I'll write that down. Blue and yellow make green. So add them. Add green. And add green. There we go. Or obviously you can list shades of colour. You could quite literally list shades of colour based off of different directories you find. Finding the right colour is difficult. Mixing colours, it depends how you have been taught about colour. I don't speak a lot about colour, but I must admit the idea around colour is very important, because person's ideas around colour are very strong because it evokes strong emotion. It evokes very strong emotion, and it has a lot of impact. Going from like a traditional method of colour, where you intuitively know things like hue, saturation, and value. So you know the colour itself, how black or white it is. Sorry, how saturated it is. So how much of the colour there is, and how black or white it is. And that is, a very traditional but also digital way of thinking of colour. And if you know how traditional colours work, you'll know how to basically pigment mix. So pigment mixing gives the illusion of classical colour mixing. So you create the bespoke colours if you're doing it in a digital form, or you're doing it in forms of, Pantone. Because everything's digital these days. Pantone or digital. These forms of colour mixing are very important because they represent, the colours themselves. But thinking in terms of mixing itself, think in terms of oil painting. In terms of oil painting. Or if you're someone who finds a lot of inspiration from, say, photographs, as I have, look more in terms of creating the difference. So you're creating a sense of an air. You're creating, let me show you this work. You're creating a sense of how these are green, how these are orange, how these are pink, and that's black and that's red. How this is green, how this is pink, how that's pink. They're completely opposite. You're creating that difference. You're creating a stark difference that has harmony. An air that has harmony. And there's many ways to collect colour. I'm not just going to list colours because I don't find that, unless you have got, unless you've been on, say, Pantone, or you're using Letraset. I don't think they do Letraset anymore. They used to do Letraset years ago, markers. Or Copic. Or you're using, what they're called. Using, a brand of oil paint. Or you're using fabric swatches. Because they'll be unique in colour. Then you can start to list the idea of those are sources, by the way, if you want to have a look at those. Just have a look online. There's Pantone, Letraset markers, there's Copic markers, obviously branded oil paints, there's certain pigments of those, and fabric swatches. If you go to your local, you order some fabric online, have a look at fabrics online. It's best to see them in person, or go to your local fabric store. But then you can, from there you could say, if we've gone for a Pantone or a Copic marker, they'd probably have something like deep crimson or vivid red or ultramarine or ochre yellow. We'll have, you can make your own name for colours, to be honest. Excuse me. They have poppy pink. They have hot pink. What else can I say? Muted moss. You could call the colour of that jacket a muted moss colour. Muted moss green. Good idea. There's a lot you can do. And then obviously from that, just experiment with colours until you get the shade that you want. So that's, an idea of coming up with fabrics. We'll look into that in a minute further, but an idea of coming up with colours. I'm going to grab some more images of fabrics, and then, what am I going to do? Yeah, I'm going to grab some images of fabrics, and then I'm just going to discuss those with you. If you just give me a second. Right, I'm back. So I have just a few swatches of fabric on the board. They're just little pictures. I've got let me just pull up my pen. I've got chiffon. I've got chiffon. I've got cotton. Let's make that a bit smaller. I've got cotton. And I've got silk. Generally speaking, obviously you would have testers of fabrics. It depends what you're going for. If you're just going for, if you're testing out fabric, you're just really testing out, the weight, draping ability, seeing the cost, if it's pre-made, or to be made, bespoke. And the colour reproduction. What I've got to admit, these samples are awful. They're just really quick images that I've found. But I wanted to just have a quick discussion with you, because when you're choosing fabrics, one thing I like to concentrate on in my work is how can I create with this fabric to the best of my abilities technically. And that includes, I'll just be brief on this, that includes seams, darts, hems, and obviously draping. The idea is to know, know your fabric. And that's as simple as I'm going to leave it as. Just know your fabric, know all the different elements of your fabric. But I'll just add, know the texture, the look, I'll call it abilities, because I do have a level of abilities. The last one is wear, because it's a very important factor. It's important because of longevity. But like I said, think seams, darts, hems, draping, know your fabric. Think about these fabrics and remember all of them, to some degree, if you get the right people, can blend into each other and create blends of different fabrics. You can create blends. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the whole riff-raff of, when it comes to the stage of picking fabrics, because it can happen at any stage. It can be what initially inspired you. So it can be your initial inspiration, which is, absolutely fine. Or it could be the last note. If it's one of the two, it doesn't matter, but it depends how you work. Do you work very technically? Are you a very technical person? Or are you a very creative person? You've got to choose the direction you go in. I won't go over properties of the fabric, because I'm not really teaching that. I'm just kind of talking about in the context of creating a collection. What I'm going to talk a bit about now is the sketches, because that feeds into this idea of fabric. Because when we're creating sketches, I'll call them designs. When we're creating designs, we have to think in terms of... Second, just need some of my coffee. We need to think in terms of is this one piece or of many? How does it fit into the collection? How does it fit into the collection? What else? We need to think of our model. Our figure that we're drawing on. And sometimes the model. And, what they call target market. Target market wearer, we'll call them. Target market wearer. So yeah, if we think in those terms, there's more, but you need to think of the model. You need to think of how it fits into the collection. Very obvious. It depends how organically it'll become very organic, but you need to think in terms of what patterns are involved. How do I present them? And you need to know whether that's presenting them on the figure or on the design. And what that really means is it's not a technical term by that, it's quite literally an artistic term and creative side of designing. So is the pattern going to be very figure hugging? In that case then, there should be a level of design element to contour in with the body, if you wish to. And that in itself is not a trend, but at the end of the day it's also for womenswear it's kind of a must-have. But you also need to think about it from the technical side as well. So I'm thinking more from the side of, figure suggestion. But also, continuation, we'll call it. Continuation of pattern, if needed. Another thing that needs to obviously be spoken about is, the fit. And there's so many different things you can do with that. So if you think of the fit, the garment itself, a very important thing. The garments themselves. I know that's fourth down the list, but, I probably should have put that at the top, but I thought it was kind of obvious. The garments themselves. How many? How many? And you palette. You palette for the collection in terms of fabrics and colour. Yeah. And you'll gather inspiration as you go along designing. That's the thing, you don't have to refer back to this at every single point. You gather inspiration as you go along designing. You could be very utilitarian about it. You could come along and go, I'm going to, this collection is, it's womenswear. And it's for fall 2025. Or it's for spring 2025. Or it's for the 2026 or 2024, whichever year you want to choose. I'm trying to just come up with things, but you can say I'm going to have 4 jumpers, I'm going to have 5 skirts, I'm going to have 6 dresses. You can even outline the dresses, pencil skirt, a midi, a circle skirt, 3/4, a 3/4, what else? A panel dress. You can outline them all if you want. And then you say there's 7 tops. And there's 8, stilettos, shoes. And if you want to do it that way, you can do. It makes it easier for you, that's absolutely fine. When you're coming up with a collection like this, there's nothing wrong with saying we need to have this number of this, this number of this, this number of this, and this number of this, and this number of this. But what you need to do is have that as a subconscious idea. Idea within your mind, so it doesn't get in the way of your creativity. And that's a very important factor. Do not let any of the nitty-gritty or the fine detail, because I'm going to, in the next video, show you how to do more of a technical work, and then I'll move on to menswear. But don't allow the nitty-gritty, the 1.5 or the 2.3 or the 2.5 centimetre seam allowance on the edge of, the hem or the edge of the collar dictate the way the whole design is going to appear, or the cut of the edge of the jacket, it's asymmetrical. Don't allow it to be dictated by somebody else coming along and saying, well, the jacket is supposed to be symmetrical. Allow your creativity to flow, especially when in a phase of trend setting and discovery. And what you should do from there is then pull back to a technical side and a business mindset, which I'll touch on slightly in a bit. in the next video. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope it's been informative for you. And I'll catch you in the next video. Okay? Love you all. Take care. Peace. Hi everyone, Rue here, back with another part to this video, another episode. We're looking at patterns now. So patterns come when you've basically chosen the fabric and the design, finalised the design, finalised the fabric choice, created the pattern to an extent, and then you go into a very technical drawing of, as you can see, it tends to be black and white, where you show the front and back and sides of in a two-dimensional way, meaning it's recreate a three-dimensional form of a garment. To give you a bit of an overview of what I mean by that, you can probably see I use the highlighter in this piece here. As I zoom right in, you can see around the breast area there's a lot of cupping and seam lines, and there's darts down the centre here, and there's a seam right across the top here, and there's probably gathers the piece of fabric that makes up this entire section here. Because my guess would be this secondary piece here would attach in some way there at the back. I may be wrong, but it seems to be, it's either this bottom part is one single draped piece of fabric and then stops here with the seam, and then has two darts and multiple supports for the breast and two sleeves, as it has two darts at the back here as well, just to show how it fits the form and the shaping of the dress. And yeah, it's very simple, as you can see. There are darts, there's a seam line there below the breast. This entire bottom piece seems to be a single piece of fabric that's draped. And the breasts are almost like a bra style breast. These images, by the way, are courtesy, and the ones for fabric are courtesy of Google Images, so the copyright goes to them. The other images are my own. The menswear and the womenswear are my own images. So these flats and these pictures of fabric are all copyrighted and to random sources on Google Images. But yeah, my guess would be there'd be there should have really been a seam at the back, but maybe they managed to do it with a single piece and do it around the fabric and tuck it under. Obviously you would have started with a longer piece of fabric and then brought it in at the hip, so they would have measured it in inches around the bottom. Obviously I can't size it from here because there's no size guide, but it would have been quite a number of inches longer, and then they gathered it around the waist and hip, brought it up and split the fabric off, or cut it in a certain way. And with the jacket, sorry, just 1 second. Sorry about that. With the jacket, it's there's tailoring to it. There's a little bit of men's tailoring to it, but I think this is more of a woman's jacket. As you can see, you have the darts down the waist. I'll highlight them for you. The darts down the waist, and these seams down the side of the. We've got on the shoulder there, and down the arms for the sleeves. Sometimes you may see, I'll draw them in, a double dart line down or around the waist, and it just adds that little extra cinching around the waist. You sometimes see them across as well. I've done them across, and you see them across on the jacket. So almost utilitarian style way of doing them, especially if the sleeves are quite straight, using like panelled fabric. excuse me. But yeah, they're a single dart jacket. I'm not sure on the shoulder. I'd have to, sorry, just a second. I'd have to go through the shoulders. You can get different type of shoulders. You can get notch, notch style shoulder. You can get a notch lapel as well. You can get an Italian. It's almost like a drape shoulder. And you can get a very relaxed shoulder. I forgot the actual. I can't believe I forgot, but the technical name for them. But it'll come to me at some point. I'll come back to it. But yeah, as well as that, the lapel, which lapel is, if you don't know, it's this area here. It's this fold, it's the collar area of a jacket. If you don't know what a lapel is, I don't know why you're watching this video if you don't know what a lapel is, but a lapel is this collar area, and it varies both in width and cut and length, depending on the length of the opening of the jacket, because you can have a single button, or you can have 2 buttons, or you can have 3 buttons, or you can have a very formal kind of I don't know, away from dress kind of cover up style jacket, or you could have a double breasted or triple breasted. Double breasts are nice. They're often very nice to wear for men, and even for women it suits them. But you can have a notch lapel, which is the type on this. It's not a very technical flat drawing, because obviously you need certain seams to do with. I just draw them in. You need certain seams to do with the lapel, so you can cut it in a certain way. See this curve here? You need to get that perfect. You need a seam here. It would bring the fabric in, and you'd be able to get that perfect colour here. So these areas here would be seams underneath that you wouldn't be able to see, and where the visible seams that are showing at the moment. But you can get a notch lapel. You can get a peak. Sorry, it's a peak. It's a peak that's below. Sorry, a notch is different. I'll show you later on in men's. And you can get a shawl, which is the rounded kind of more dress, cocktail style jacket, or dress jacket, evening jacket style lapel. And then another thing to focus on is obviously the actual length of the jacket, the lower half, the length of it. Very important. You could have 1, 2 pockets on one side, so at that level of Italian dress, or uniformity, or usability in some cases, because there's obviously a purpose to a jacket. That's what people forget sometimes when they put fake sleeves or fake, not fake sleeves, fake pockets in on jackets. They sometimes forget that they're not, people will actually need them. Excuse me, I was just having some of my coffee. So yeah, there's that. The back, again, there's many different ways to work the back of a jacket. A kind of sporting jacket way of doing it is to have this and then have a fly at back. Sometimes just call it a flap, when the back end opens up. It's quite a lot more formal, but it's more of a sporting way of having, this seam down here. But in this case, it's just got a single dart. I'll leave it to the side. Oh, just a second. Oh, I'll leave the other side as it was. See that single dart? Again, it's for the tailoring effect. There's many things you can do. There's many different things you can do with this. But this is a quick overview of a jacket. I always find lapel is the defining feature. The waist is the defining feature. So when you're looking at jackets, it's very much the defining features are the lapel, shoulder, waist. Now that seems like I've covered a whole thing of a jacket, but they are quite literally the defining features. They work in harmony because the shoulder goes down to the waist. The lapel accentuates the shoulder, brings in the waist, and they create this certain shape. And it's very subliminal in a sense, when done properly. So it's one of my favourite pieces of clothing for a man. Then you've got the obvious cuff. And naturally you would have on that seam several buttons, preferably 3 or 4. Go for 3 to complement the underside of the cuff sleeve, whether it be a simple button or I forgot what they're called, simple button or I forgot what they're called, never mind. Cuff link, that's it, or a cuff link. And men and women can wear these, but this is more of a women's dress style of jacket. You just tell by the nature of the figure. And then with the biker jacket, it's a lot more, as you can see, it's incorporating zips. And it's even showing levels of seam allowance. So we're showing levels of seam allowance. We're showing visible zips. Visible zips. And we're also showing, I would say less so darts. Everything seems to be in the form of, seams. Because it's a panelled design. It has, we'll call them features. If you look at the waist, if you look at the collar, not the collar, sorry, the cuff, if you look at midsection, the panelling down there, that opposes the panelling down there, the symmetrical here, and this cross section across. Obviously, again, it's the same principle though. It's to show the seams, types of stitch, it hasn't got a very technical view of this, but seam allowances and features should have measurements. What none of these show, however, is the inside of the actual garments. So what you also need to bear in mind is basically the inner workings. So the lining, the structure, based on fabric supports, undergarment. Undergarment and basically layering. So it creates the illusion of, it dependent upon the outer fabric of fit. One thing we can add to layering, I nearly forgot to say, boning. In case there's a level of boning in the jacket or in the piece of clothing, in the garment, especially for women. Sometimes for men, but especially for women. If there's some boning in the jacket, it will add the structure, within a waistcoat or a jacket, an evening jacket or some form of jacket, or the top half of the dress, or around the hips, or within a certain couture gown. You need to think of the elements of structure, undergarment, and boning. I use boning. I'm going to, put this as a major topic. I use boning as a loose term and a modern term. I don't use it in the idea of Victorian, because we don't do that anymore. I use it in terms of layering, form-fitting, and basically it's modern. It's modern, it's layering, it's form-fitting, and creates shape. Yeah, so think of it more in terms of layering, to put it simply. Can't really define it myself. Only, I use it in my garments kind of subconsciously. So, I'll come back to it. But think of it more in terms of layering. So we're not creating these, hard plastic. There's no hard plastic. No hard plastic structures unless necessary. And persistent use of fabric support. Through manipulation. And layering. Basically the outlining of what I mean by that. So that gives a brief overview of a technical drawing. I'll go over the back really quickly. As you can see, there's a seam there and a seam there for this back panel. Seam for this, what would be a windbreaker style back, except it's fixed on, because a biker jacket is based off of this utilitarian wear of somebody riding what was a bike back in the day, but then became a motorcycle. They're also used for shooting, and they've been used for many different things, but the idea of them was a mixture of like a hunting jacket and a riding jacket for modern vehicles in a way. So it trickles from the idea of a hunting jacket because it's made from certain animal leathers normally. There's seams at the back of the arms and this feature piece that runs across the waist. If you wanted to, you could add here and here to create the illusion of a smaller waist. So it fits like that. Pleats. Even here, you could add extra buttons. So this fastens to there. And pleats. It would crease the leather, but it would create a new shape. You'd have this, maybe crop it a little bit so it's not at the hip, because it looks like it's about hip length. Bring the hip down here, about waist length. Try that. There's many things you can do. Yeah, that's the idea of flats. Oh, there's a dart down the centre here. I didn't see this. Yeah, there's a dart down there. Dart down the centre there, apparently. It's very apparent, obviously, because it's a technical flat. She has drawn a straight line, but it'll obviously have gathered. Yeah. So, yeah, in a second we'll go over and look at some menswear. Just go through the creative process of that. It's very similar to the last one with women's. But it's just, I've just got a few things to tell you, and hopefully you'll gather something from it. So yeah, I'll see you in a minute. Hi everyone, Rue here, back with another video. This time focusing on menswear over women's wear and the technical sides we went into with the fabric and tech drawings. I'll just title that so it's easy for us to figure out where we are at. So yeah, over to menswear. I picked 3 of my sketches as an example. This is a ready-to-wear piece with skinny trousers, a aviator coat, and simple open collar shirt, all in these shades of mulberry and brown, which I'll just set this side here. The idea was slim fit, but also outerwear. The design here is on the right of the other one. It's a well-tailored suit in cream. It was a piece kind of put together from different ideas of an undervest made of leather. So it's kind of sectional. In different parts, you have the undervest, you have the shirt, and you also have the jacket. And they all kind of make up the top part of the garment. As you can see from the picture, I'll use the highlighter for a moment to show you what I mean. This area here, in the centre, is very much you can call it an ornate piece or a staple of the look. It's this what's it called? Seamed or layered leather. So it layers on itself. Kind of puffer style. I forgot the technical name of it, but the shirt underneath is a darker cream, and it's very open collar. I wanted some relaxed formality to this piece. The kind of statement of it was the fit of the jacket. And obviously the trousers, the turn-ups. So yeah, and of course the big lapel. I like, wide lapels. So I'm giving it a wide lapel. It's a peak lapel. It has, a strong Italian style shoulder. One notch style shoulder. And as you can see by its waist, 2 darts running quite symmetrically down each side and actually going into the lower half of the jacket, creating a more fitted look around his lower waist as well as natural waist. But on to the next piece is a double-breasted jacket, the same principles except different jacket length and a flare to the pants. So a simple flare, flare cuff, and double-breasted. But it's almost in this ochre yellow. With a lighter version. For the jumper. Yeah, they go together well. The styling is very, within itself, and it has a certain feel about it. The use of loafers, especially the use of blue loafers here. There's marine loafers. But what I wanted to talk about mainly was when designing men's fashion, what you need to think about most, in just my opinion, when it comes to menswear, for me, I think, first of all, what would I wear? What's in my wardrobe? What's in my wardrobe? Let me just sort that out, because I've not, that's not an usable word. What would I wear? What's in my wardrobe? Then you think of obvious trend setting, then forecasting. And these ideas will come with different sources and lots of different places. You can look online, you can contact third-party companies. It depends what your business is sort of into at the moment, or whether you're doing this as more of a creative endeavour, part-time for people, or you've specialised in trend forecasting as part of your speciality as a designer. But trend forecasting, it's definitely something that's worthwhile, because we have to do that as designers, but I would say the trend forecasting is not a main role for a designer. There's people below them who tend to do the trend forecasting, and the designer themselves sort of chooses what they see as appealing. So there's those different elements. Another thing I wanted to say as well, and I find this is often in men's fashion, you can, make a garment, or you can make an outfit, or design an outfit for whatever occasion, whatever reason, whatever collection, even couture, whether it's formal, informal, everyday, ready to wear, whatever it may be. But men's fashion tends to be very selective. There isn't a lot you can do with it. In terms of shapes and silhouettes and certain garments, because they repeat themselves. They're different from women's wear. Women's wear is a much broader range, of clothing than men's. The thing about men's as well is men are more selective in what they wear, so they'll look at a design piece instead of going for the whole outfit. Instead of going for the whole outfit, they'll go for the shoes, or they'll go for the jacket, because they'll know that they've got things already in the wardrobe. They're not as in tune with fashion as some women are. Not every man's like that. Some will go for the entirety of the look, but for men in general, as general rule of thumb, is they'll be more selective in terms of, the jacket is the kind of thing that I'm looking for at the moment because I want a new jacket. Whereas when you look at women's fashion, if you go over to the women's wear, women will look at the jacket and think, I love the jacket, but I absolutely adore the heels, and I absolutely adore the pants, and the outfit works really well, and I know exactly where I could wear it. It's just like a general idea. Not every man's like that, not every woman's like that, but you will find, due to the lack of variety in men's fashion, in some ways, due to the limited silhouettes we have, and also just natural trending of the way men present themselves and choose their clothing. There seems to be more of a niche to be selective in terms of having designer items, on their own, than having an entire outfit that is made up of designer items of the the male sex. But yeah, those are some ideas that I wanted to share with you, and you can take something from that, take what you will. But one thing I must say as well is, this is for both men's and women's wear, I think of your target market from a business side, but also think of who. So who are these designs and these clothes going to? Who are you designing for? So we think of who. The ultimate question is who. All of this directed towards, and that will give you a definitive idea of where to take things even further. But yeah, that covers quite a bit, as you can see. But yeah, I hope this has been. I might do some more on this in the future, but for now, I think this has been quite informative. So, if you guys have enjoyed it, please give a like and subscribe. And yeah, love you all. Bye.